Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out to our stream. I think that we are live and good to go. So welcome today to another episode of Howdy Partner. Super excited to talk to you today about our about Xoriant. So they're one of our consulting partners, and they have a really cool product that they built for us. And for those of you who are just turning in for the first time, Howdy Partner is a Twitch show where what we do is we bring on some of our favorite partners and we get to talk to them for basically the next 2 hours. So, if you guys have any questions at all, please, in the chat, reach out. We'd love to answer those as we're going on. And for the next little bit, it's just going to be us talking and trying to learn a little bit more about what Xoriant has been working on. Xoriant, do you mind just giving us a quick introduction from your side?
Absolutely. This is Mahal Mohan. I am responsible in Xoriant for developing solutions based on AWS technologies. So think of it as sort of end-to-end usable operational business solutions that as key underlying capabilities leverage not only the AWS cloud, but key services. And we're going to be expanding on it in terms of a new offer we are really excited about based on Textract called Accelerate and Voice. Xoriant is headquartered in Silicon Valley in Sunnyvale, California, and that's where I'm located as well.
Awesome. And Naren.
Yeah, this is Naren Chelluri. I head the product development here at Xoriant. We build enterprise solutions using different technologies, and AWS is one of our mainstays. Thank you.
Got it. And today as well, I'm joined by my coworker, Hanara. And could you give a quick introduction to yourself? I mean, a lot of people know who you are. You've been on stream a few times now.
So I'm Hanara. I am Taz's coworker. I'm a partner solutions architect. So I work with our partners like Xoriant to validate their architecture and just make sure that we're following best practices and keeping solutions secure and making sure that customers are having a good experience.
Sure. Thanks for that. And so today's episode is pretty cool. So what we'll be working with is behind the scenes, if I understand correctly, it's a Textract based solution. And what you guys have done is you've basically streamlined the process for invoice processing, something that I'm sure a lot of enterprises struggle with. And so Hanara, do you mind just giving a quick introduction on what is Textract and how does it work? Like, what is this thing?
Yeah, so Textract is Amazon's machine learning service that, well, it's kind of in the name, right? You extract text from scanned documents, which you could utilize that data in a more consumable format than inputting the data from a scanned document manually. And I can share my screen really quick to show what it looks like in the console.
Cool, ready when you are.
So I am sharing the wrong screen because I'm good at technology and yeah.
It's okay. Fortunately, I am not sharing your screen yet, so we are good.
Okay, that's good to know. Let me try to I'm doing it wrong again because this is why they hired me. Okay, let me try one more time. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing. Like, how am I working in tech and I'm a millennial and I'm so bad at this stuff?
It seemed to come on momentarily,
Okay.
Start screen before the slide comes on and then it kind of disappears.
Okay.
It's okay.
I
think that we've all had issues with screen shares and mute buttons, and if that sounds familiar to anyone, just reach out in the chat because I know it's happened to me at least like 5 times today.
Okay, I think I kind of understand what's happening. Um, uh, I hope this helps other people's confidence.
So yeah, if
Okay,
nothing
there we
else,
go.
we are all
Woo,
human.
I got it.
Okay.
I wish
Yep.
I was way more suave about it. Like I just talked even more about Textract and sounded really smart before I completely struggled with this. It wasn't visible until now. All right, so Textract, back to it. It's AWS's machine learning service. Um, and if we just try it out really quick, we get an example just from trying it out through the console. And you can view it in raw text format to grab the data from a scanned document, and you can download this to analyze it a lot easier than having to do some manual entry into CSV file. You can also view it through form format. The machine learning is not perfect, so you get these colons. Probably need to do some extra cleaning up of data, but it's definitely a lot easier to have it in this form format. It also grabs tables and provides that for you as well. Um, so that's pretty straightforward. And once you download them, you can consume them and analyze it for your own business case. And that is Textract.
So yeah, basically just a extracting text. I guess that makes a. Sometimes our products are named really well and they make sense. This was one of those cases, and so great. So we kind of have a basic understanding of what it does. So for our guest on stream today, how do you take that and expand upon it? What have you guys built?
Sure, I'll start there. So the ability to extract text and put it in a kind of a standard format and be able to highlight where it is you have confidence and not is a kind of a enabling component of very many different real business applications you can think of. What we have done is really create a end-to-end business application, in this case, automated invoice processing and handling using Textract. The analogy that I would draw is if Textract were an engine, as a regular consumer or even a regular business, you don't go into the car showroom looking for an engine. You go looking for a car. That means there is a lot of things in the car that make it functionally useful for you to get from here to there in a comfortable way with different acceleration, et cetera, which the engine enables, but the engine is not the whole thing. So
Sure.
if an enterprise customer is looking at consuming Textract, they typically are probably looking for a car in which that engine is existing. So that's kind of the thought process and the model in terms of just like, how do we position with Textract?
I think that makes a lot of
It's an age-old
sense.
business problem. And I have some slides I will go through as well in a little bit, but maybe I will tell this in sort of a conversational mode in the beginning to make the point, and then that'll enable me to kind of show it in some pictures and detail it out a little bit, and that'll provide Narayan a starting point where he can really actually demonstrate the solution. So think about the business problem as follows. A lot of enterprises, when they are processing invoices or other paper-based documents, are piling up huge files of documents. And there is a set of people that are sitting there reading those, transcribing information from what they see, inputting that into computers, and then running a workflow, and then it gets moved to somebody else that reviews and approves it. And that's typically predominantly the mechanism in enterprises today for how invoices are processed. Now, in today's world, it helps to automate some of those different things so that The grunt work is increasingly offloaded from the humans, and you can use a smaller number of humans more efficiently in order to get the job done, and at the same time increase the throughput, the processing speed with which this process of something coming into you that eventually gets validated and results in a payment is handled. So we solve that problem end to end for enterprises that have a high volume of invoices. If you're a small business, you're getting 10 invoices a month, maybe you don't necessarily need anything fancier than somebody sitting down and transcribing. And so we set out to build a solution, and the solution is currently deployed in a major social media company, and it's in production right now, so we feel pretty confident about it. We took the approach that what if we looked at the latest foundation technologies, not only the AWS cloud, but Textract is pretty new. It was brand new last year. It's still a pretty new, very modern technology capability from AWS. If we were to conceptualize this whole problem of solving automation of invoice processing using this and the cloud, how would we do it? So that's the solution we built. The solution has got a lot of stages and aspects to it, which I will walk you through. And it's going to go on AWS Marketplace in about a week. It's brand new.
That's huge.
So when we do that, we'll make it, we'll publicize it to this community any which way. But in the meantime, you can, of course, reach into us, and we'll flash our contact information as well as the page on our website, on the Xoriant website, where that's talked about. So until the marketplace offer is actually official, you have a chance to follow up with us beyond anything that you would get out of this particular call. So that's kind of a high-level picture of it.
Awesome. Cool. Were you going to share those slides now, or where would we want to go next with this?
I can do it now. So let me.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, we have in chat, Alex was asking, is there going to be a demo? And I said, yeah, there will be a demo. That's what we're here to do. And I'm ready to share your screen, though. Just tell me when you are ready.
I am ready. I am sharing. Are you able to take it and share it?
Yes. We are good to go.
Okay. All right. At the end of this, somewhere along the way, I'll give an introduction to Xoriant Corporation as well. But I figure you want to hear about the solution first, and here it is. We are diving right into it. As I said, the solution that is branded and named Accelerate Invoice is an automated invoice processing solution, and it's powered by this engine of Amazon Textract, but it has a lot more than just Textract under the hood. And as I mentioned, it will be on AWS Marketplace soon. You're hearing it. This is the unveiling event. This is the first place that you are hearing it. The general flow of what I'm going to cover is just a quick overview of what this is, why somebody would look at Accelerate Invoice, sort of what is the workflow of the solution, what does it do, how does it work, and a certain amount of details and demonstration. For pragmatic purposes, we'll probably do the demonstration after I go through this presentation material, when Naren can take over and kind of drive you through the demo.
Cool.
Explaining what the deployment and architecture would be, and sort of very quick story. Basic questions: why Accelerate Invoice? You want to automate invoice processing and reconciliation. You want to avoid tedious data entry that usually we have a bank of people in bigger corporations that are sitting down and doing data entry, and they get tired, and the machines don't get really tired. So you can do a lot of processing with, as you will see, improving accuracy over time in this. So improving accuracy is a learning system. That's going to be an interesting aspect of this. You start with a certain amount of ability to recognize patterns, and then a human being can teach this system, and it will deal with variations and improve its accuracy over time. So it gets smarter over time. That's a very, very important aspect of the solution. Another important thing is managing approval workflow and existing, integration with existing processes in enterprise. Enterprises typically have ERP systems and other systems that are repositories for key data. For example, if you're getting an invoice from XYZ company, one of the steps that you want to do in addition to transcribing the information, company name, address, account, is to be able to access your enterprise system, find information on that company, find that it's actually a valid supplier that's invoicing you, find the payment history associated with that supplier, find other history that is relevant to when and how you're going to pay out this invoice. So integration with existing enterprise systems is an essential ingredient to making this technology fit in and become part of the working life of an enterprise. Then there's approval workflows. Invoice payment involves money, often large amounts of money for things that were supplied as essential ingredients to your business. And you don't want somebody to just sort of approve a bunch of things and have them go through the workflow. You want the right level of management approvals set up into the solution of the system so that things based on whatever policies, if it's a $10,000 or below, somebody approves it. If it's $100,000 or more, somebody else higher approves it. And enable all those checks and balances and validation in a solution for it to be truly useful. All this is above and beyond just gathering information that is in a text document, which is where TextTract helps us. So integrating with workflow, finance. Stop me at any point, Taze or anybody. If there's a question to ask, please go ahead.
No, we're good. I think we kind of get it. Yeah, this is awesome. I'm really excited to hear about how it continues to learn, and the improve accuracy point there I think is huge. So yeah, super excited to learn more about it.
I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but Naren is going to really kind of elaborate on it when he talks and when he demo. So cool. Definitely let's put a page marker there, Taze and team.
Yep.
And ultimately, you want to customize it to your business needs. Although the generic problem is universal, any enterprise that handles a large number of invoices or similar documentation can benefit from this opportunity, especially so now with COVID that everybody is remote or most people will be remote even in the foreseeable future, and they cannot be all waiting to handle pieces of paper and input them. So the need and the opportunity associated with that went up very significantly with what has happened in the world today.
Sure.
But ultimately, the systems, enterprise systems, the workflows, who needs to approve what, and the comfort level about how much to automate payment are all individual to every single business. And we need to be able to customize it or adapt it to the business.
Yeah, one use case that I think of just from my own personal experience was years and years ago before I started college. I worked as an assistant at my neighbor's law firm, and they have so much documentation, unbelievable how much documentation they have. Now, I wasn't qualified to be able to do data input, so I wasn't on that side of things. Instead, I was just the paper shredder, going through the old documents that were 7+ years old or whatever the legal requirement is. Disclaimer: don't come to this stream for legal advice on how to deal with your documentation. I'm not the person for that, but I think it was something like 7 years. But just from my experience there, that manual process and seeing some of the work that other people were doing, this would save so much time. And honestly, probably cut down on human error. Just when we were getting started for this, I spelled what was it that I spelled wrong? But anyway, like I spelled something wrong just in typing, and so like having an automated system that learns could be like way better than employing me to do data entry.
You are articulating some of the key points, Dave, in terms of benefits and kind of the kind of capabilities that make it worthwhile. That gives it the business case. We have enough time in this session to be able to get into any of the aspects that the viewers are interested in. They can obviously ask questions. But let me give you the very high level. This is the Cliff Notes version that I'm going to unpack a little bit in the next few minutes. So what is the flow of the solution? The first stage is importing a document, right? Instead of sending paper mail of a document, it is uploaded or emailed to this company that that has deployed the solution by its suppliers. So it's electronically ingested. The next step is that note that the ingested data is a bunch of invoices, and different companies have different invoice formats. So not all invoices coming from your various hundreds or thousands of suppliers are going to have a same format or even a consistent format. You want to capture that data from those diverse formats, but put them in some kind of a normalized or a canonical structure that you can deal with, you can do the next step with, right? Here's the name, here's the address, here's the amount, here's what it's for, here is the date, a set of things. They will be found in different corners and different places, and some may be even missing in the incoming document. That normalization is a huge step in this process. Next, once you have done that, you have the step of validating. And the validating really has to do with, okay, you got this information from the supplier. It involves money. As I said earlier, how do you now correlate it with what is in your enterprise repository about this particular supplier? What are they doing? What's their standing, payment history, et cetera, et cetera. That can be done by walking paper across a room and giving it to an admin that's going to log into that system, correlate, et cetera. You can see that's a long process made even more complicated today in this social distance world. Now, in this solution, the APIs of that enterprise system are securely accessed, and that information is cross-checked and correlated by the system itself. So you get a validated output that says, okay, looks like these things are checking out, and it's okay to pay, for example. Then there is a correct and learn. You raise the issue, Taze, and other people may be interested in this too, where, okay, well, the system begins to process a bunch of invoices. You are finding a bunch of variations and deviations in terms of how people have placed information in the invoices. And the system is looking for certain patterns. When it's not finding it, it needs the human to intercede. The system is going to give you a confidence score about the information is extracted and it is placed in the standard form. The human operator, Naren is going to go into this much more, is going to be able to say, well, don't look for this thing over here. By the way, these guys have done it somewhat differently. Go in here and look for that field of information. And once you start teaching the system learns to deal with that variation. Okay, that information can be here or there. And either way, I'm going to process it and I'm going to give it a confidence score. That whole intelligence that we've built into the system is a very key aspect of our solution. And once you've done that, the system keeps getting over time. As a human being gets more tired over time, the system becomes smarter over time and maintains its integrity. Once you've done all of that, most companies wouldn't necessarily say, okay, just get it paid. People are not willing to see that much control to automation. Typically, they want the right level of manager to approve. And so there is an approval workflow. in this. And the approval workflow then ensures that the right kind of management and the right kind of departmental oversight gets to actually look at the information, say, wave it forward, approve this. This is okay for payment. And you want to manage the statistics and the performance of how this is all happening as you process hundreds or tens of thousands of invoices. And that is really the reporting layer where you can generate management views that kind of tell you how effectively the system is working. So they can see for their investment of essentially going into the system, how valuable is it, how well is it doing, where is it learning, where is it stumbling from time to time because of the kind of variations that humans typically are dealing with. And you can also...
Quick question on that. So have you seen any use cases, or in your planning, did you consider how you can use a tool such as this to help organizations with like risk and compliance type work? Is that one of the use cases that you're seeing or thinking about?
Yeah, it definitely can be. The point is, we made a conscious decision to take the invoice processing use case and sort of make it very domain specific for this solution, and use that to make sure that we have really a powerful system end to end. Can that evolve over time and we create sort of derivative parallel products using this technology foundation to do other types of processing, ensure compliance, etc.? Yes. But that becomes a vast variety of things. And we had a lead-off customer, we had a concrete use case, we had a bunch of invoices to deal with. So we decided to focus on kind of just really being laser focused on getting this executed and sort of solutionized and productized and offered. But those things can be done over time, Taze. There's definitely a lot of derivative opportunity from this.
Awesome. Yeah, I could see that definitely being a cool thing. And one of the people in the chat even commented that, with ML related in, you could perhaps as a future thing be able to train it to detect things like fraud or something like that in a way that maybe a human may not. So.
Absolutely. There's use cases where you are able to, let's say there's some parallel use cases we have worked on, not necessarily with this technology foundation, where, bank is getting wire transfer documents, and then you want to do a check of that wire transfer document to make sure that there's no terrorist or blacklisted organizations that are actually using this to launder money, right? And you can check that against, think of the parallel universe to the enterprise system, where you have a list of organizations and handles that are needing to be essentially blocked. You can create a parallel workflow to something like that, right? Using the sort of technology paradigm that you have here. Absolutely.
A few other people are asking, what level of accuracy can we expect out of this type of a tool? Like, do humans still need to go through and check each individual report if we are wanting 100% accuracy, or like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think Naren is going to be able to really kind of talk through that. It's experientially, he can share what we are learning, right? I mean, I would be lying to you if I said a machine is going to figure out all these variations right at the get-go. So in the beginning, the human being is going to be more involved in making sure they look at it and sort of just do this. But as the system learns, it's going to increase. So why don't I ask Naren to just comment on it briefly now, and then as he goes through the detailed demo and so on, he could talk about it even more. Naren, do you want to do that?
Yeah, sure. The accuracy on the invoices has been pretty good thus far with the customers that we rolled out. It's not that on day one it would be 80% off. It's been pretty good, and then we have ways of training stuff, and then the human intervention also is minimalistic in the way we show a confidence score and tell them what comprises of that confidence score. Your first name is right, it has last name, the email address is proper. I'm just throwing it. It need not be for invoice, right? Age is greater than 25, so don't worry. The amount is $10,000, which is in your purview. So these list of 8 points that I just spoke comprises of 80% score. So you can make your decision just looking at the screen and say, okay, things look good, let me approve this, right? So as we learn, as the human intervention is involved, and as their accuracy in terms of processing invoices increases, maybe we could automate it much more, right? I mean, even there are rules right now which say that if the supplier is right, if there is a PO and the amount to be paid is according to the PO limit, and if there is a variation of 10%, just approve it. Those rules are there in place, but we providing a software to an enterprise, we tend to be very careful that there is somebody who approves it rather than we doing it automatically.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I mean, like, if you really take a step back from it and you ask yourself, if I have a human approve this totally manually from the beginning, can I guarantee 100% accuracy? And I would argue that human error will factor into that anyway. And so, like, I think that there's always like, everything's always a balance of risk one way or the other.
Right.
And this just allows you to automate away some of that and allow it to improve. But, like, you're still taking on risk if you're having a human go through and manually do that as well.
Well, that's true.
And
I mean, this is a step approach where we're trying to automate a piece, right? I mean, let's say a customer doesn't have any automation, right? So we have done almost like 60% of automation there, right? Yeah. And then we're asking them to intervene, do some manual stuff until you achieve 80% of automation, right? Train the system. You get the confidence on the system, on your invoices, right? And then, you know, put the rules in place where less human intervention is required, more of approval happens based on rules.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it may be smart too, as for a business to consider too, like, what is the importance of the data that they're classifying? You know, some data is more important than others. If you misspell maybe a name or like misspell a road or something, that may not be the worst thing in the world. Whereas, you know, maybe the number or billing, you know, $10,000 and $100,000 are quite significantly different. And so that's something that, as you're going through, I think any company or any person working just has to balance those types of things. So yeah,
that's true, and that's where one key piece comes in, where Mohan outlined the role based and the workflow based, right? Even if the invoice is 100% right, and even if the human has looked at all the aspects and has agreed to approve the invoice, but if the amount is $100,000, the system automatically routes it to a manager for approval, subsequent approval. Otherwise, there's no point in paying $100,000 just by the processor.
Right.
So that's where our workflow comes in, and then the rules come in saying, even if everything is right, if the amount is greater than $50,000, take an approval from your superior before you process the payment.
I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit later during the demo, but just so it's on your mind when you get to it, what kind of language support is available? Is it only English, or are we able to do other languages?
At this point, it's English. We are actually working with Extract team to get the versions of Extract to be released for other languages. Of course, our customer right now is operating much of its invoices in English language, but they require Japanese so soon. So we are working with Extract Engineering and our partners at Amazon to get as much of language support, and something soon will come out, and then we will roll it out. That's the one advantage that we have in using something like Amazon Extract, because I, as an engineer, need not be worried when it's rolled out, right? It's automatically available to me. I need not make any changes on my end or a deployment, right? That's the more advantage that we have in choosing a cloud-based Extract kind of a solution versus the traditional OCR stuff, which I have to install and train, right? That's the key piece in us choosing Extract.
And actually, that's a key thing for folks who are new in this space. What is OCR, and how is what you're doing different than OCR?
Yeah, sure. OCR stands for Optical Character Recognition. That's what Hannah showed up front, where you give it a document, it will try to recognize some of the characters and give it to you. Traditionally, before Textract or before any other cloud-based OCR, it has to be done through on-premise solution. There are vendors who have powerful OCR systems. You'll have to download those software, install it on your servers, and then configure it with them. And then down the lane, when they train their OCR solutions, give us an updated version. Again, we have to install and do all that traditional work. But with Textract, the advantage is I don't do anything. I mean, Textract exposes an API. I call the API. Engineering team of Textract works on improving that capability through machine learning and various other means. I need not learn machine learning. All I need to do is have a good partner manager, talk to her, get engineering team, give us new latest versions. They give us beta also for us to test. So it becomes much more easy. I have no knowledge on machine learning. All I know is how to call that API and make use of it, right? So that's the fundamentally, I mean, we have all the ingredients like role-based UI, workflows, integration with enterprise systems. Now I have Textract in the repertoire, which is actually allowing me to build these solutions very quickly, not knowing the internals, because engineering, Textract engineering will deal with those.
Cool. Thanks for answering that. Yeah, that was super helpful. We had a comment. One of our watchers says they know OCR because they have negative feelings towards Adobe's logo. And so for those who have seen that, I guess you'd know that what they're talking about there. But that's pretty funny. Cool. So what's next?
So let me, I did go through fairly slowly sort of a high level flow, which enables me to go through the kind of the details a little bit faster, and then I'm going to turn it over. But in terms of the things we discussed, the question often comes up, how is this different from XYZ OCR-based solution that's out in the market or whatever, is that the future-proof power of this solution combines Amazon's commitment to constantly improving and innovating and expanding the scope of Textract, expanding in the sense of other languages, unique signs, dollar signs, pound signs, and all that stuff, and making more and more robust in terms of its accuracy over a period of time. That power of Amazon's innovation machine is leveraged there. But since it's still an engine and nobody goes to a dealership to buy an engine but to buy a car, we selling a car in some sense, that's a full solution that's got this constant updates to the engine without having to drive back to the dealer. That combination is the central core of the value proposition here. I know I'm repeating or emphasizing that, but that's the answer to a very often asked question, how is this different from this or that? Superficially, it's different, but fundamentally, it's a new paradigm. Let me do this. I know you all want to see the demo and get into that, but let me go through the kind of a little bit of a slower version of what I just did. So step one, I talked about all the steps before, so I can do this quickly. The suppliers email invoices or upload invoices. The way our first customer is set up, they are global, so people in Asia Pacific send it to an Asia Pacific inbox. They once in Europe and Middle East send it to that inbox, and once in North America send it to another inbox. So things are sort of brought in there electronically. They can email or upload the documents. And then this is the place where we leverage Textract, the engine under the hood. We get that information from this diverse type of structures and formats and vendors and put that in a canonical form. And that canonical form of what information you want to have in that standardized representation can be customized for an enterprise. A particular certain enterprise may want to have certain piece of information, such as the full street address or whatever. That may be an invoice. Another one may or may not want it. So we have the ability to have the customer work with us to agree on that standard, and things will then fall into that standard, right? Then the validation phase, as I said, is a very critical one. It is replacing this whole old-fashioned but universally done method of taking information captured in one system, then running it across to another department, going to another operator that got credentials, and getting that information validated with the enterprise system. Here, once you establish the secure handshake with the APIs, that happens instantly, and it happens in a very organized and automatic fashion, gaining you a significant amount of time saved in terms of the process. Then there is the correct and learn. So the confidence level associated with various fields is actually highlighted by the solution. So it kind of tells you, hey, this part of it I'm fairly confident. This one I have a little bit less confidence. This one I don't quite know. And then the user, as the trainer in some sense, the user has gone from a grunt worker that was doing all this transcribing to more of a boss of the system. That then says, okay, I look at this, and if I were manually processing it, this is what I would look for. This is what I would change it to. And the learning process begins, and I'm going to have, defer to Naren to really talk through that. That's where the learning happens. Then you've got the approvals and management. So the approval, across departments or within different departments, there's hierarchies that differ from company to company in terms of who do you want to see what, who do you want to approve what, and who do you actually even want to have certain information hidden from. For example, one of the Amazon solutions architects that looked at the solution as we were building it asked if in a government use case, can we essentially obscure certain fields for certain audience? For example, if you want to hide social security information, just picking an example that everybody can relate to, and you want to hide it from a certain class of users, but expose it to a certain other class of users within this entity. You can set it all up very easily with a role-based structure that we have. So who sees what, who approves what, is done in a highly adaptable role-based manner. And then you want to configure the system to say, hey, these are the roles, these are the powers that to see and to act and to approve that is associated with different roles. And if over time you learn and you want to change those roles around, you want to take out a person from the role and move to a different person, that can all be done through the configuration parts of the solution. And we also want to see how is the system doing, right? If you went to the board of directors and you got their approval to go to this more modern system, you used COVID as a justification to say, well, there's nobody in the office, we don't want to be handling mountains of paper being shipped to our homes and deal with the maintenance requirements of it. We want to do it this way. And they say, well, how is it doing? We got the system deployed. How is it doing? What percent is it cutting from human labor, right? If you needed 10 people to process this, are we doing well with 2 people? All those metrics of how the system is delivering business value can be seen through these dashboards, and these dashboards can be customized again. Here is the workflow. You heard it a couple of times from me, so presumably you got that pretty well. And the integrations are with enterprise systems, and on the outbound, the integration is to procurement systems, finance systems, and often to payment gateways once something has been approved. So you can actually create an electronic payment and queue for the right kind of approvals. All this can be integrated with single sign-on. And so this is the whole business solution
That's
that
awesome.
we offer.
So here's an interesting question. When you have, maybe different customizations that you have to do in the teaching process and stuff like that for the different forms, is that something that you have to do, or like would a customer be able to do that?
Yeah, it's a good question, Dave. So we are an organization that creates this kind of a replicable cloud-based solutions, as well as we have a service arm, large service arm, that can actually work with you to customize a lot of this. If it turns out that you have somebody else you're using for software customization, they need to be trained and they are in-house, or they are somebody you're working with and you want to use them, we can train them too. So there is certain aspects of it we are particularly skilled at doing. And so it probably makes sense in most cases for us to provide the solution as well as do this customization, set up to work with these APIs, set up this kind of a workflow. So we would be a full turnkey solution that can do all of that. But if you have some in-house expertise and you want to take over certain integration aspects, we can work with that also. So think about it as not just a classic software product or just a service on hire, but it's a combination. That I think is, in this kind of thing, that is going to be the emerging model that the world is going to go to.
And I think that that's a really important nuance. So a lot of the guests that we do have here on Howdy Partner tend to be just complete, like just straight SaaS companies. A lot of them just bring their product and that is what they sell. You guys are actually from the consulting partner side of things. And so this is an offering that you bring to customers. And so, yeah, absolutely, there's this product available for your customers to use, but that's not all. There's more to it than that. And behind the product is your team of people there to help out with it.
Absolutely. This is like you picked up, this is the critical thing, especially when you're looking at enterprises, not just small and medium businesses. They almost always, in my experience, require a certain degree of this kind of customization or adaptation so it fits in their business process, their operational process in their world. Otherwise, it's like a foreign body that's just kind of stuck in there, right? And never really truly integrates to give them the maximum efficiency. So this combination of being able to build a cloud solution and integrate it with your legacy or non-legacy systems to create that whole business process, I think at a sort of a senior management and board level, that's a huge value proposition.
Yeah, totally. Well, cool. So I think we've got a demo, or do we have a couple more?
We have just one more slide, and almost to the demo now in a minute. So deployment, right? People kind of like, okay, what's the deployment methodology of this? This is aimed towards not an SMB customer, but an enterprise customer, right? That's who's got the problem. They have a lot of suppliers, a lot of invoices, a lot of diversity of this, and they typically are doing this in a very inefficient human labor way today. So this solution can be deployed in the AWS cloud instance of the enterprise. So this will go into the workload. The company has decided to go with AWS, and this will be another workload on their AWS. The AWS services and everything will be part of their AWS tenant. Or some customers may have a hybrid deployment where certain aspects of the solution can be working from their data center, and you can reach into extract in their cloud instance, use it as a service. So you have the ability to consume this from the point of view of a whole cloud solution in your AWS instance, that's an enterprise, or you have a hybrid between your data center and your AWS cloud instance. So that's an important thing to know in terms of what's the consumption model of this solution. So I'm done with my kind of a description of the solution. I'm putting up here, where if after this event is over, you want to follow up in detail, you have somebody or yourself that's interested in trying out the solution, you see a business opportunity, this is the email that you reach out to us, Naren, myself, and our whole team will have access to your query. And this is the portion of our website. Xoriant does a number of things. There's a portion of our website where we have started placing information, a little short 2-minute video, etc., on this, as well as in the next week or 10 days, we're going to be posting an AWS Marketplace offer, and we'll get the word out to you. So with that, I do want to stop sharing this deck, see if there's any questions so far in terms of what I have reviewed. And the next stage, Naren can do the demo. Anything else, Hanara, Taze, you want to talk through? I'm done.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that we're probably good to jump right into the demo. Actually, no, hold up. There was one question that I was going to ask, and that was, is there a pricing model for this if somebody wants to engage with you all, or is it basically reach out and then you'll work with them?
Yeah, reach out and we'll work with you, because what we find is there is quite a bit of variability in terms of how much enterprise integration somebody wants or not, what is the volume of invoices they have or not, whether they want it all in the AWS cloud or not. There's so many variables that it kind of becomes a challenge to say this is one, cookie cutter, one kind of structure fits all. So this is really for the people who are really interested in this. It's really, come in, let's look at your solution, let's have you even try this out, and then we can really customize something for you. That's the nature of it.
Cool. Yep, that makes sense. Well, cool. I'm ready to jump into a demo. What about you guys?
Sure. Let me share the screen. Are you able to see the screen?
Yep, let me share that for everyone. I think we are good to go.
All right, yeah. I'll just show you the aspects that Mohan mentioned. So what we have done is we've built it on AWS, needless to say. We have built a UI that is customizable for the enterprise, and it's role-based. And you can see this is called the receiving console, where the processors get to see what invoices were received from suppliers in emails. So we can configure multiple email boxes. Typically, an enterprise will have customers all around the world, and you can have, typically it is for account payable, so apus@xoriant.com or APAC. So you can configure multiple email boxes, and we have kind of step functions that we use to monitor those email boxes, and then read the incoming emails, process them. If there is a rejected email, it is primarily because there was no invoice associated with this. See, if you see here, they sent a base64 text file, which is not a PDF, right? So it was rejected. But if you go back to the received emails, you can see the original email. For example, if you click on this, you can see that this is an email from this person to apcloud.io@gmail, subject and the body. This is the original attachment. If you have multiple attachments, we show all those attachments here. So at this juncture, once we receive an email from a supplier, we look for an attachment. Once we have the attachment, we call the extract API. And for every customer, the fields are all configurable. For example, an invoice, an enterprise would want PO number, invoice number, the bill to, the amounts and the line items. So that setting is all configurable based on the enterprise needs. So once you get all these emails, we maintain these boxes, so that way you can click on unassigned, right? At the moment you click on unassigned, you can see all those invoices which are not yet assigned for processing, right? So you can just click here. And then from here on, you can click on My Workspace, that is a processor's workspace. So I logged in as a processor, and if I go to My Workspace, I'll see all the invoices that I need to work on, right? So let me open a particular invoice. You can see that right now the confidence level is 75% based on some settings. And then all the fields from this invoice are populated into this canonical form, which is again customizable, as I said, right? And everything that is being text extracted using extract is all in the yellowish color, right? So if I click on confidence, for example, these are the rules set up by the customer. The PO number is not matching. The remaining amount as such is not matching. The operating unit is not matching. So this will give the processor the capability to say, okay, let me process this or not. Right? If he is not going to process it for some reason, he will not. For some reason, whatever the reason could be, the PO number is not populated here. So typically, you need not go back to the developer. You need not do anything of that sort right now. All you can do is just click on this PO, use this invoice, and then click on the field where the PO number exists. And it's populated now. You just save it. And then automatically, the system now captures this area and then remembers that this is trained. For example, here are the trained fields you can see here. And then next time, when the same supplier, Advantage Corp, sends an invoice, it will first use the textract capability to populate all the values. Then it looks at any trained fields and then tries to populate this. So that's how we'll be able to improve the productivity of the application. And once you train some of the fields that are not populated for a particular supplier, and we remember those rules, for sure the next month invoice is going to have much higher confidence, right? So this is how we were able to give the capability to the processor himself to train the system rather than, again, depending on the developer.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I've got a question about that. When you're making those changes, like basically giving it training material, how is it learning? Is that just because it gets passed back to Textract, or is there something that you're doing on your side to help it train?
At this juncture, we are doing something on our side to help this train, but with the subsequent APIs that I was told, Textract will give us capability to again call an API. That way, Textract also learns this process, right?
Cool.
So at this juncture, we are doing it on our side. We're storing the customer information and then applying this on top of Textract's capability. But eventually, we will be using Textract's API features to even train that way. Right? That'll be a very interesting aspect as well, right?
Awesome.
So one more example I would like to show here is there are certain fields that are not populated. For example, the site address and the supplier site, and then the confidence level is just 50% right now. So the way, as I said, is I can go here and just select these multi-line, and then you can see that this is populated here. When I click on save, at this juncture, you can see our capability that the supplier site, which is empty, will automatically be populated because we're integrated with an enterprise system, right? So now, the moment I clicked on save by supplying the site address, it went to the enterprise system, in this case, an Oracle ERP. And based on the site address, it pulled up the supplier site, which is appropriate way to do in the enterprise world. And now, because I was able to pull up the supplier site, the confidence level is now 75%. See? So
okay, cool.
Increase the confidence from 50 to 75%. Now, let's say if I get rid of this, delete it, and try to save it, the supplier site will go away. I'll delete the supplier site too. And now, the moment I save, the confidence is 50% because it lost some of its key fields here, right? So
Yeah, totally.
That's how we will be training the system, and that's how the accuracy is improved.
Got it. As far as ingesting the invoices, is that through a manual upload, or is there an automated pipeline for that? Could you just elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. There are two ways of doing this. One is through mailboxes. As I said, you can configure multiple email boxes, like ap@xoriant.com, ap@aws.com. So those are mailboxes, and you ask your suppliers to send invoices to those email IDs, right? So we have a program that constantly monitors these email boxes and look for incoming invoices. And then as soon as it finds an email with an attachment, it will call the Textract API and then present this information so that the user can go in and look at the actual invoice here, and the data populated here. So that's one way to deal with this. If you don't have email boxes, then there is a mechanism through which the processor can upload an invoice received from a supplier. and from there on, the mechanism is same. So that's another way. And in future, when we launch it, we are also trying to provide a way through Amazon S3. So that way, if you already have a mechanism of getting invoices from your suppliers, instead of directly handing over us the email box or a secure way, you can just ingest all of those invoices into Amazon S3 bucket, and then our system will be constantly monitoring the S3 bucket, and then as soon as it gets the invoices, it will start processing. So we have multiple ways through which you can ingest invoices into the system. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's time for the obligatory mentioning of serverless. It sounds like that's like an awesome like serverless type application, is if you get it to basically trigger based off of whenever things get added into S3. And we got an architecture diagram.
Yeah, this is the one that we're using right now. As I said, the step functions are used to constantly monitor boxes or S3 or file uploads, and then we store the original invoice in S3 again, right? So that we don't lose the original one. And then we use the text track to process the invoice. And then we also use Amazon Comprehend. For example, if I get something like Narain Inc., right? I mean, so Comprehend helps us determine whether Narain is a person or a company name. Or if you get something like 10095 South Blaine, which is my address, it'll tell me that it's an address, or that's the capability of Amazon Comprehend. So we use Comprehend to determine what kind of entities they are, name, address, or a company name. And this helps because at times we may not have access to the enterprise system. So for example, if I have access to the enterprise system, it's easy for me to search their supplier database to determine whether it's the name of the supplier or a name of a contact, right? But if there is no access to the enterprise system, then the Comprehend will help me determine what fields I'm dealing with. A number field, string field. If it's a string field, is it an address? Is it a company name? Is it a person's name, right? And then we use the all the extracted data. If you remember, the first part of this session, Hanara showed us with the key value, the table. That's exactly what we use, and store all that information in Amazon Aurora. And then we use our own framework, which is this framework, to use the data from here, and then using a web portal, which is what we're talking about here, which is again customizable. I'll just show you the piece where we customize it very quickly. And then users can log in and you see what I'm showing right now, right? So there is a role-based access. For example, I have logged in as a user who has the processor, as well as I have access to the dashboard. So here is a reviewer's dashboard, which will show total number of invoices, how many are assigned, how many are unassigned, how many are exceptions, by due date, and so on and so forth, right? And you can click on this to look at all the data filtered here. Past due, look at the particular invoice as an approver also, right? Or as a manager, you have complete access to what's happening within your enterprise. So this is one aspect that we have. And other interesting aspect is our capability to customize this UI. For example, if some customer says we don't want a pie chart here, I can simply go, I don't need to code anything. I can just simply make it a pie 2D, for example, or a donut 3D, or a bar 3D, right? This is the framework that we have, which is a low code kind of a framework where you can quickly make those changes as the customer wants, right? So label, for example, instead of buy, they just want due date, right? I can just say due date. It will change, and I can make the save here, and it works for them, right? If you don't want to make any of these changes, I can just undo and it will go back to the original, right? So with a combination of Amazon TextRact's capability, its machine learning aspects, and our UI framework to build this UI in a customizable way, ability to integrate with enterprise systems, and deployment on Amazon Cloud and hybrid, we're able to build a comprehensive solution that is enterprise grade, and then helps enterprises solve its automation problems in the AP world.
I really like two things like that have stood out to me. One is I love the enterprise integration that you mentioned there. Like, there's no reason to like to depend on OCR to get data if you already have the data, right? Like, if you can just get the customer name, then we can probably populate a lot of that other stuff based off of what we already have record of. So I think that that's cool. And also, I'm really liking this UI. I like that customizability of the graphs. And something that I've been trying to figure out is what did you write this front end in?
This is all in React.
Okay.
React.js is what we use in the front end, and we use predominantly Java on the back end.
Cool.
But all the solutions that we build using this framework. I don't write any code. For example, if I have to add a button here, again, I enable the developer mode. Look up here. Let me move this out here. And then if I want to add a button, I'll just right click on this and say button. And here is your button, right? And then just double click, make it in a blue color and give some name. And then if you want to make it small, you can make it small. And if you want to put an icon, you can, right? For example, this icon, and then trigger on click, do whatever you want to, right? So
wow,
all of this is done in React by my development team, but as an application developer, I don't do any coding. I just use whatever components they have provided and build my business application, right?
Yeah, that's pretty slick. Do you happen to know because I made a comment in the chat earlier and I want to test myself. Is there any material UI on top of the being used with the React?
That's true. Yes. We use that material skin.
Nailed it.
Yeah, you're right.
I love it. It's just a great way to make a really clean UI. There's several comments about how people are really liking the front end of this, and I think that that's really cool. That like if you're not a developer though, that you can just
I mean, you need not be a full stack developer. If you know backend, now you can work on the front end like this, right? So it really enables a person who has a lot of backend knowledge, who can write business integration software, but requires skills on the front end. He can use this low-code platform to quickly build these business applications. And to answer one of the questions that you asked upfront, this is the capability we have, right? So that's where our engineers also can customize the solution to your needs and integrate with your specific business systems. Right now, whatever demonstration I have is on top of Oracle ERP, but if you need to integrate with NetSuite, we can do it. If you need integration with SAP, we can do it. So this solution as such, with all these ingredients of a low-code notion, using TextRack dynamically, and then integration with various other enterprise systems, gives us the ability to not only build this kind of invoice processing, we could do some PO stuff, or as you said, we could do some legal stuff as well if you know the domain aspects.
Absolutely. And going back to you showed that architecture diagram. All of that is, I think it goes back to the earlier slides that we had. The question was, where do these resources live? Like, are they in your account? Are they in customers' accounts? Could you just reiterate that once more?
Sure. At this juncture, we're going to do a private offer, which is going to be the customer's account, right? We do offer a trial version for that. That way, you can use your invoices and understand how the application is suitable to your requirements, how it's working. But eventually, when you want this to be used, when you want this offer, it's going to be a private offer where on a click, you'll have all of the solution deployed on your Amazon instance. That way, it's all secure. It's your property. You could use this solution behind the scenes. You have your own account, and all of the enterprise data that you have is not exposed to us. So that's the idea right now, because we are capturing it for enterprises, respecting their enterprise-grade security and data.
Awesome. Yeah, that answered the question. And so you guys have this coming up onto Marketplace. Again, we've had people come and go in the stream, and so I wanted to make sure that that's also talked about. So Marketplace is coming up here soon, right?
Yeah, we're just in sort of the final phases of getting that put together. I expect that within the next 1 to 2 weeks, it'll be up on Marketplace, and I'll take guidance in terms of how to get that Marketplace link propagated to your audience here. But definitely, if you keep our website and our contact information handy, then we will cross-link the Marketplace offer to that website.
Totally. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that that's posted again for the folks in chat. So it's, yeah, absolutely. If you all are basically going through the issues of trying to process invoices and you want to have access to a really cool UI, and then, the more we've gone on with this demo, the more the car analogy makes sense. I really liked that analogy. Textract may be kind of like an engine, but like people don't want to necessarily buy an engine. They want to buy a car. They want if you have a Ferrari, which I think this is like a Ferrari of invoice processing, there's the engine, which is great, but you also have the frame of it. You have the suspension, you have the really nice leather seats, and I think that the UI of that just is great. It really brings the whole thing together.
That's a good reinforcement, Taze. I would make one other, now that if you like the car analogy, I would just extend a little bit. I mean, I happen to be a Tesla owner from back in the day, and one of the things that I liked about the Tesla cars is not just that they are electric powered and everything, which is what's commonly known, but the fact that there's over-the-air updates to the software of the car that makes the car constantly more capable. Like I live on a hill, the car knew to raise itself when it came to my driveway because it's got a slope. And it just blew me away when it did that about 5 years ago. I used to raise it over
scraped the bottom of my car off now, so now I don't have that problem.
There you go. There's a different way of solving the problem. But the analogy is really that any upgrades, new language support, new kind of capabilities, new accuracy enhancements that are put into Textract or any of this are going to constantly upgrade the solution, so there is a future-proofness to it. Yeah. That's a very, very fundamental point.
One language and just area that I think would be amazing is if you got the ability to process Chinese receipts. And the reason why is in Taiwan specifically, so I used to live there, basically all receipts look exactly the same. Like same exact form. They're basically a government issued format for them. And so it'd be like, I don't know, if I needed to process my receipts from over there, it would be super straightforward. And I don't know, that's just what comes to mind. So hopefully Textract can get some of that other language support in there.
Yeah, I mean, at this juncture, we are able to process the language, I mean, English-based, but we're able to process all the symbol, I mean, the currency symbols, right? The yen, Chinese, Indian rupee, and all of that. That capability we have in the system, but as I said, eventually, come few quarters, we should have the ability to even text extract data from languages as well, other languages that Amazon Textract supports.
Cool. So we have a question in chat. So going back to that, the upgrade comment, how would somebody, like if you guys come out with a new update, how would they upgrade their software?
You mean our version?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So the two ways, I mean, basically, of course, when you have a new Textract version, it's global, right? Everybody gets that rollout, and we could use that subscription. With respect to ours, we have a mechanism called patch management. So any changes that we do, new improvements, fixes, or UI. So there is a way in this software to upload the patch. So we release the patch and you just need to look at the differences and upload the patch. Or there could be a way of automatically doing it. So we'll take care of automatically doing it, or handing over the patch to you so that you as an administrator can go and upload the patch and see what changes have come in. And if you're willing to, you can apply those changes.
Cool. It's a lot of sense. Anara, how are you doing? I know we lost you there for a second. The video dropped off. Are you hanging in there?
Yeah, my internet is very weak right now, so I am trying to stay on and grasp as much as I can.
That's great. Has there been anything that's stood out to you as we've been chatting?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the front end that we have going on. My friend always says your product can probably like solve really big world crises, but if you have a bad UI, then no one's going to use it. So this is really awesome, super user friendly. I think a lot of people in the chat are excited to use it, and yeah, it's really awesome.
So let me stop sharing and answer any questions.
Yeah. One question that I had was, so we got a call out in chat, UI 10 out of 10. So you guys, people are really excited about that. So you mentioned it briefly. So there's like Cognito access there. How would you control roles and access to information? So I know like we showed that we could like limit the fields that certain people could see. Could you demo that? I'd like to see like how as a user I could see that.
Yeah, sure. So in this solution, for example, there is a navigation menu where if you see I have multiple rows. One is the invoice automation admin, the processor and reviewer, right? So when a particular user logs in through the Cognito, there is a mechanism in this solution which will actually enable you to apply the roles, right? For example, if I have this role and if I can, like role name contains processor, do a search like this, and I have the processor here, and if I go to users, it will list all the users from Cognito. So you just need to add those users to this particular role, right?
Okay.
So that's how you can add roles to users. And then users, when they log in, they can go to this navigation, search for a specific page. For example, I can just search for console, and it will give me all the pages under all my roles that have the same name. So I can click on this to go to that particular role, right? So either we can maintain roles in this solution and map it to the users, or you can even have a workflow design so that you can automatically assign roles based on some predefined settings that you have. So that's one way. And to your question about how to hide a field, right? So again, I can go back here. If I don't want to show the total amount, right? I can enable my developer mode, go back here and look at the total amount field. And here is the number field. Then I can say visible, it's right now visible. There's a visible condition here, if you see here.
Yep.
And you can open up the expression builder and say, okay, let me go to the user. And if the user has a particular role, for example, admin, then show this, otherwise hide this, right?
Cool.
So you could do all of these aspects here, and not only that, right? So you can hide it in a small screen, you can hide it in a medium screen. So again, all the UI is accessible from any device, any browser. So when you try to access these screens in different, it may not be applicable for the invoice case, but in general, as a framework, right? When you build these screens, you can hide certain fields in certain sizes and certain devices and all of that. But to answer your question, there's a visible condition property that you could use to hide this particular field if a user has no permissions to view this data.
Got it. Another thing that I was thinking about as we were going through it, like one of the cool things about this is kind of the report aggregation feature. And I haven't narrowed down a use case in my head yet. So I don't know why you would have this feature, but I always have to ask because it's like one of my keywords. If you've watched the streams, I think AM, he has to mention serverless at least once per half hour. I feel like I have to ask, is there any way that you can use like regex at any point in your UI for like parsing through those lists?
Yeah, we do use that. I mean, a lot of things. I mean, for example, in this case, the supplier name is Advantage Corp, but also it happens to be Advantage Corp completely. But you know, companies have different names, right? I mean, they do a business in a Amazon Web Services is actual. Let's take that as the name, but you do a lot of your business through AWS Word, right? So like that, each company has its full name, but they do business in a different name. So in those cases, and in this case, for example, the site address, right? It may not be the same address that is in here, matching with the one that was created when the supplier onboarded with the customer, right? So we use a lot of regular expressions, a lot of underlying logic apart from textract to achieve this accuracy. It's not that textract gives us the same words. Sometimes there could be some issues with the way textract interprets a particular word, and sometimes we have some issues with the symbols as well. So we use regular expressions there to infer what this value could be, and then assume that this is a number, or assume that this could be a supplier name, then go to the other database, check. Yeah, there are a lot of other logic that we wrote into this software, apart from using textract. Of course, textract gives us the ability to automate so much of stuff that should have been manually done. But yes, we use regular expressions, we use validations, we use some kind of other logic as well to detect some values.
Love it. Previous career of mine, previous job, I had to write a lot of regex, so it's near and dear to my heart. Mo, who often hosts on this show, whenever he's got a regex question, he'll send a message to me. There have been times I've been like eating dinner, and I'll challenge myself to just like manually write regex on my phone and see if I can in one try get it. So most of the time I don't, but it always feels good to try. So that's awesome though. I think this is I just really love all of the features and just how well thought out. You guys seem to have thought of everything, and I think that's really great.
Yeah, that's one advantage when you have a customer as well, right? So that's the point Mohan spoke about, right? Why we chose invoice automation rather than any other piece, because there are customers who need this, and there are account payables team which are actually spending a lot of time doing this manually, and that's where we thought if you have an end-to-end solution that will cater to all these needs, and then having a customer who is willing to use the solution helps us get some more requirements and refinements as we build it and show it to them. And the biggest advantage we have is not that we bake this for 2 months and then show it to the user, but as you have seen right now, I can bake it for a week, show it to the customer, and show him does it make sense. And if he says no, I want the button to be changed here, I can quickly do that. It's very agile in this sense, really agile, right? Because you're not just talking in terms of agility, but you're showing a piece of software that is actually designed by you, show it to the customer, ask him for a review then and there. So your shipping happens very quickly as well, right? It's not that you're taking 2 months to cook something, show it, and then end of the day, it's not that what he wants. So you're able to quickly recreate something, quickly make changes, and that's real agility to
Right. Yeah, especially a lot of people run their entire businesses off of like a single Excel document. I stole that comment from the chat, so gonna give credit there. But like this takes it a step further. Gives it a central place. You have the ability to add to it much more efficiently. And I'm curious, are you able to when you're aggregating all of those different invoices together, are you able to import previous reports that you may have assembled?
Oh yeah, yeah. For example, I mean, even this one itself, right? You could do dates, last 14 days, last 28 days, this week, this month,
Okay.
get in the information. And we also have reports that are built for a specific invoice never validated and backlog and reconciliation reports, rejected invoices report, never validated report. So depending on the customer's need, we will be able to build these reports as well, apart from canned reports that we give as part of the software.
Awesome. That's great.
Right.
Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about or make sure that we cover?
Pretty much that's it. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So this point that Naren showed and then summarized, right, the ability to create a quick POC solution and the customer says, I don't want it this way, I want it that way, and we can very rapidly adapt it in the solution to be more like a custom fit for that customer. That is really a superpower. And so getting this understood by the broader AWS solution architect community, I think is going to be it's a real joint opportunity, because it allows the solutions architects to translate a customer opportunity into a very quick POC that is fit with what the customer is looking to experience. That then creates that degree of tangibility for the customer to say, I want now an enterprise deployment. So this is a kind of an accelerator as we see it, the way it's done.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Does the chat have any other questions? If so, ask quickly, because we're just wrapping it up. And so, Hanara, what were your key takeaways that we talked about today?
I think Naren made a really good point about having a solution that really thinks about the customer first, and you can see through their products that they started backwards. They thought about who really needed their solution and iterated based off of their customers. And I think that really aligns with even our values here at AWS to always put the customer first. So yeah, you can really see it. Very thoughtful solution. And you can see a lot of time went into thinking about who the end users were.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you couldn't make a product with this like great of a UI without really understanding your customer. I agree with that completely. My favorite features, I think I've kind of talked about too much. I loved the UI. I love the enterprise integrations. Again, you guys just really thought of everything. And so just as a kind of a final call to action, what should people do who are watching this call who are interested in learning more?
Well, go reach out to the inbound contact information. If you are or you have a link to a customer or a business user within your operation that can benefit from something like this, make them aware of it so that they can actually take the next step in sort of looking at this. We're just coming out with this, but we came out after it got very solidly validated by a very, very demanding modern enterprise customer, and therefore it is fully baked. So get the word out, as well as if you have an opportunity, if you have a one-step connection to somebody who's got the need or an opportunity, contact us and take it to the next step. A solution like this that's thought through benefits from more and more users actually using it in production. That's simple.
Awesome. I think that's a great takeaway. And for those watching who want that contact information, I've posted that in chat again. And so just reach out if you have any questions or if you have any referrals for people who you think might benefit. And so this brings us to the last and hardest part of the show, which is the sign-off. So here at Howdy Partner, we have a tradition, and that is we sign off with one of three options. And so we are going to do our best to coordinate and say the same thing at the same time. The three options are, y'all come back now, you hear, giddy up, and happy trails. So those are the three options that we have. What do you guys think? Which one are you feeling?
Giddy up.
Giddy up. I like it. Okay, great. So on the count of three, we'll go giddy up. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Giddy up.
Giddy up.
Giddy up.
Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll catch you next week, 2 p.m. Pacific, Mondays and Wednesdays. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for hosting us.
For your time. Thanks for hosting us.